Hello everyone. Today we're going to be looking at Unit 6, Pythagorean's Theorem and its converse. So our vocabulary word for today is Pythagorean triples. So the Pythagorean theorem is something that we've learned before. We're just going to get a little more in depth with it. So let's take a look at our theorem for today. In a right triangle, the sum of the squares of the length of the legs, so that means when we square each of the legs and add them together, it's equal to the square of the length of the hypotenuse. And the big one that we're going to be getting in today is these common Pythagorean triples. So we have 3, 4, 5, 5, 12, 13, 8, 15, 17, 7, 24, 25. So these are common Pythagorean triples. Basically what happens is when we square the two smaller ones and add them together, they give you the square of the larger one. And then if we multiply them by 2 or multiply it by 3 or any other thing, 4, 6, 10, whatever the multiples of this are, those are also going to be Pythagorean triples. So 5 times 2, 12 times 2, 13 times 2, 8 times 3, 15 times 3, 17 times 3. So that's what we got right here. So you don't have to memorize all of them. If you can get the base ones down, then you can work your way from there. So let's take a look at example 1. So example 1 is a problem that we've done many a times, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to do it again. So with this one, we want to find the measure of the missing side. So with the Pythagorean theorem, we always start off with our right angle. So here's our right angle. Opposite our right angle, that's our hypotenuse or our C value. So in this case, C equals X. That's our unknown. That's what we're solving for. So our theorem is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So it doesn't matter which one's A and B because we're adding these together. So I'm just going to say that the 17 is the A and the 7 is the B. So this gives me 17 squared plus my B is 7 squared, equals my hypotenuse, which is my C value, that's my unknown, so that's my X squared. Well, 17 squared, so 17 times 17 is 289. 7 squared is 49 equals X squared. So we squared these two. Now we want to sum them together, sum of the squares. So that means add the two of them together. So 289 plus 49 is 338 equals X squared. I want to take the square root of this because I want to find out what it actually is, what the length actually is. So square root of both sides. Square root of X squared is just going to be X. Square root of 338, well, it's going to be 13 root 2 because 13 times 13 is 169. So 338 is 169 times 2. And that would be our final answer. If we wanted to get a more approximate answer, we could just take the square root of 2 and times it by 13. That would work. So now we want to use the idea of the Pythagorean triples. So for example 2, we have 14, 50, and X. So we're going to look back at these 3, 4, 5, 5, 12, 13, 8, 15, 17, 7, 24, and 50, and we're going to see which one this one lines up to. So again, I'm going to start off with, here's my right angle. Opposite my right angle, that's going to be my C value. So my hypotenuse in this case is 50. So I have X is one of my legs, 14 is my other leg, and 50 is my hypotenuse. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at my chart. I'm going to look, where do I see 50? Well, I see 50 right here. I have 14. Hey, look, there's my other side. I have 50. So that means my missing side length is going to be 48. because this is a 7, 24, 25 Pythagorean triple problem. Because this is 7, this is 25, this is 24. That's the Pythagorean triple pattern we're looking at. So that means x is going to be 24 times 2, which is 48. If you didn't see it, if you didn't recognize it right away, then of course you can do a squared plus b squared equals c squared and get 14 squared plus x squared equals 50 squared, and you can solve it out and you end up getting 48. Doesn't matter which way. This is just a little quicker, and if you recognize it, use it, but this will always give us our answer. So a summer camp is building a new zip line course. The design of the course wants the last zip line to start at the platform, which is 450 meters above the ground, and end 775 meters away. So we're going to start up at a height of 415 meters. So here I am. I'm on my little zip line. I'm going to take my zip line down, and after I've taken it down, by the time I get down to the bottom, so I'm at the bottom. Here's a nice little tree. Very pretty tree. That's 775 meters away. So how long did I go down the zipline course in order for me to be 775 meters away? This is my right angle right here. Since this is my right angle right here, opposite this is going to be my hypotenuse. So right here, this is my C value. This is my unknown in this problem. So I'm going to go a squared plus b squared equals c squared, because that is our Pythagorean theorem. I'm going to plug in my information that I know. So this is my a value. Again, it doesn't matter which one's my a, which one's my b. I can switch the two of them, and it's still going to give me the same answer. So this is 450 squared plus 775 squared. The one that matters is my c. My c has to be where it is. 450 squared is 202, 500, plus 775 squared is 600,625 equals x squared. Sum these two together, add these two together. That gives me 803,125 equals x squared. Now I'm going to take the square root of both sides. When I take the square root of this is going to give me 896.17 meters. So C is going to be 896.17 meters. The converse of the Pythagorean theorem. If the sum of the squares of the length of the shorter sides of a triangle is equal to the square of the length of the longer side, then the triangle is a right triangle. So if I square this, add them together, and that gives me this squared, then we have a right triangle. Here we always start off with the right triangle to find our C. This is saying we don't have the right triangle, we just have the three sides, and we're trying to identify, is this going to be a right triangle? If the square of the length of the largest side of the triangle is less than the sum of the square of the lengths of the two sides, then the triangle is an acute triangle. So if C is smaller than your two legs, you have an acute triangle. If C is larger than your two legs, you have an obtuse triangle. And as I just said, if C is equal to your two legs, then you have a right triangle. So let's take a look at example 4. With example 4, we're going to figure out what kind of a triangle we have. So first we need to figure out some lengths. So we have AB, we have AC, and we have BC. And we're going to use our distance formula. Remember what our distance formula is. X2 minus X1 plus Y2 minus Y1. So let's plug it in for AB. X2 minus X1 is going to give me 5 minus 2 squared plus 7 minus 2 squared, which equals the square root of 3 squared plus 5 squared, which is the square root of 34. And when I type that into my calculator, I get out about 5.83. Let's do BC. So BC is going to be the square root of 10 minus 5 squared plus 6 minus 7 squared, which gives me the square root of 5 squared plus negative 1 squared, which is the square root of 26, which is about 5.1. And then our last one, AC, is going to be the square root of 10 minus 2 squared plus 6 minus 2 squared, which is the square root of 8 squared plus 4 squared, which is the square root of 80, which is about 8.94. So what we want to do is we want to add our two smaller sides to see if it's bigger than our larger side. So basically to form a triangle from previous theorem. So we have 5.83 plus 5.1, which is greater than 8.94. And then also we're going to use our other sides, 5.83 plus 8.94 is greater than 5.1, and then 5.1 plus 8.94 is greater than 5.83. Remember, this is from a previous theorem. If one of these were to fail, if this side is, if the two smaller or if two of the sides is not bigger than the third side, then we would not have a triangle. This is from previous sections. So we have a triangle. And as we said, this is our leg. So 5.1 is a leg. 5.83 is a leg. And then 8.94 is our largest side. I don't want to say hypotenuse quite yet because we don't know if we have a right angle. That's what we want to find here. So c squared, will that equal a squared plus b squared? So plug it in. 8.94 squared, will that equal 5.1 squared plus 5.83 squared? That's going to give me 79.9 when I square the 8.94. When I square these two and add them together, I'm going to get 60.0. So this side, my largest side, is greater than 60. So if we look back at our theorems, if it's greater, then this is going to be an obtuse triangle. So it will not be a right triangle. It's actually going to be an obtuse triangle. So in this section, we relearned about Pythagorean's theorem, and then this was the new idea, figuring out, is it an acute, obtuse, or a right triangle? So write a summary of what we learned for today, and then use these notes to help you answer the problem.